Resources. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, DYS. They have kids there ages 12 to just under 18. And they're kids who committed some kind of fairly serious crime, and they're not suitable to be out in the regular society because they need some help, and they probably would be dangerous on some level to other people. I think about these kids all the time. I was a youth counselor there, and there was a boy by the name of Marvin. At the time, he was 14. Marvin, just about my height, young black man, very thin, very well-groomed, just took really good care of himself, and very quiet. You just never really heard very much from Marvin. I don't know what Marvin did to get himself over at Watkins Mill. I don't know what the deal was. We got kind of a basic file, but there wasn't a lot of information that I could really know much about Marvin. On Saturday mornings, we cleaned the dorm, unloading everything out of everybody's locker, everything, wiping it down, everything. And one morning I walked by, everybody's cleaning, and I'm just supervising, but I look, and Marvin has a picture inside his locker, and I stopped. I don't know anything about Marvin, really, because he just is not very forthcoming. And I said, Marvin, who's that picture of? That's my mom. I said, Marvin, I've been here 7, 8 months already. I don't think I've met your mom. And Sundays were visit time. Families could come and visit. He says, she's in prison. I said, oh, I'm sorry, Marvin. And I said, what about your dad? I don't know my daddy, he said. My mom never told me who he was. I said, well, Marvin, who are your people? Who's your family? He said, well, I got my grandma. And I'm lucky. I got a grandma, and she kind of keeps track of me. And I thought about that. He didn't say a lot about his grandma, okay? Well, also, twice a week, they got phone calls. When you're first there, you get 3 minutes once a week. And then it goes to 3 minutes twice a week, and then it goes to 5 minutes. Eventually, when you're sailing and you're doing everything you need to be doing, you get 10 minutes twice a week to talk to whoever your family is. And so I was thinking about that one evening, and I was sitting there at the phone, and we dialed the phone for the kids. And I dialed it for Marvin, who was dialing his grandmother. I was thinking about that. And so I hear, this is what I hear, because I'm right here, and Marvin's like just inches in front of me. No privacy. Marvin picks up the phone, and Grandma picks up the phone. You hear it ringing, and hello? Marvin says, Granny, it's me. It's Marv. You hear the sigh. I can hear the sigh from where I'm sitting. How are you, Marvin? Well, I'm doing pretty good, Granny. I'm doing pretty good. And, then he's looking up at me. He's looking, because I'm listening. And he knows I'm listening. I had to listen, actually. It's part of my job. And his grandma says, well, I hope you're learning something, Marvin. Yeah, Grandma, Granny, I'm learning some things here. How are you doing in school? I'm doing okay in school. I've already made 2 grades. Just this week I got my test back, and they had an IEP. Every kid had a special learning plan. And he says, I've done really pretty well. And she says, well, you're pretty far behind. He had 10 minutes because he was a good kid. He's 14. He was doing everything right in that facility that he needed to do, but he didn't talk 10 minutes. Not in that way. So he hung up the phone. He looks right at me and he says, my family, Miss Cindy. My family. I know, Karen. It just breaks my heart. It really does. I love that kid. He's a good kid. But I want to say this morning, when I look at the story of the so-called prodigal son, or the lost sons, as David said, I think really it's a story about belonging. It's a story about belonging to people, like people who belong to each other. Both of these sons had a dad. And as the story goes, the youngest son is pretty arrogant, isn't he? He goes up to his dad way before his dad is even sick or thinking about dying and says, I want my half. You can imagine the father saying, really? Okay, he says. He gives the son half of what he would inherit when he died. And as the story goes, what did he do? What did the youngest son do? Anybody going to help me out? He was listening. He what?
Wasted it.
He wasted it. Yeah, various versions say different things. Ron, you're at the corner of your mouth. I see it. Just speak it. What was he doing? Now I'm looking right at you. I'm picking on you today. What was he doing?
He was wasting his money.
He was wasting his money. He was just living a life that wasn't a good life. Okay. I missed that, Ryan. Did you have I guess not. Okay. We know who we belong to. Okay. Ron, I apologize. Actually, I sincerely apologize. But yeah, the son was out there just wasting his life, wasting his money. And to see how far down he had gone. Does anyone remember what he was doing? And Karen even mentioned it with the kids. What was he doing before he decides, he looks up and he says, I don't want to be doing this anymore?
Feeding pigs.
Feeding pigs. Why was feeding pigs kind of like a really bad idea, given that he was a good Jewish man? Anybody got that?
They don't believe me. They don't eat ham.
They don't eat pigs. They don't eat pork. And working with pigs is kind of really in the same line of not a good idea. He just wouldn't have been doing that if he had been being faithful to his religious tradition, faithful to his own family. Okay, so he looks up from where he's at in this despair, and he decides, I got people. You know, I do. I have people. I have family. I do not need to be in this kind of a bad situation. But you can imagine the speech that he rehearsed before he decides to go home. You know, something to the effect of, Father, I don't even deserve to be called your son. I know I've really screwed up. I just come back hoping that I can be a hired hand. Please forgive me. You know, he's walking back, and you can see that he's probably saying this over and over again, and so uncharacteristic of the way men have propriety in the ancient world. The father seems to be scanning the horizon, doesn't he, for this boy? Because the father, we're told in the story, looks up even before he is anywhere near and goes running towards his son. And again, to break all rules of propriety, hugs his son, says, I'm so glad you're back. And not only am I so glad you're back, he turns to one of the servants and he says, bring him a robe, bring him a ring, put some sandals on his feet, kill the fatted calf, we're having a party. All of this emotion, all of this happiness. And so there's a party going on, and then there's the second son. He'd been out working, probably some other piece of land far enough away that he didn't know what was going on. Do we recall kind of what the other son was about? What's the other son have to say, sort of, in your own words?
What's up with this?
What's up with this? What's going on? And then he finds out, and then what's he say?
Why?
Why? Who says that? James. Why? Why? Why what? Come on, help me out.
Why are you having this party without me?
Yeah, why are you having a party without me? I'm the one who always does everything. I'm the one you can count on. I'm the one who's here first thing in the morning. I'm the one who works the livelong day. Dad, whenever you need anything, I answer, I come. What are we doing here? I actually think a lot of us can kind of identify with this older son. At least I think that's kind of how human nature works. A bit of resentment sometimes. We understand that. Why wouldn't we? He's the one who was remaining constant. But why this outrageous display of affection? And what are the consequences, he wonders. What consequences did my brother, my wild and crazy brother, get for all this behavior? He can't believe the irony of it. So undeserving is his spoiled brat brother. So I say this is a story about how we fit in with each other. And not only how we fit in with each other, how we fit in with God, how we belong or don't belong, how we sense that we belong, how we sense we're connected. That's the essence of it. Yesterday at this funeral, it was just yesterday afternoon, I can't believe the quick flight we made across I-70 last night. But I was sitting with Phil's cousin, Danny. Danny is one of the more bohemian Kelly brothers. Is that a gentle way to say it about Danny? He's got long gray hair and a big ponytail. Smokes constantly. Danny is a very creative, thoughtful guy. And I said to Danny, we were just sitting there, and everybody, lots of people, maybe, I don't know, 150 people just at this person's house, one of Phil's cousin's houses in downtown St. Louis. And Danny's just sitting there looking real wistful, and I said, "So Danny, how are you about your dad?" He said, "Pops, we're good." I said, "You want to tell me about that?" Because, you know, everybody has a different experience.